In Civilization 7, every choice you make shapes the future. And just like the butterfly effect, even the smallest decisions can have game-changing consequences later on down the track. In this video, we look at those decisions and we analyze them because you might not think there's much that can be analyzed within the first 10 turns, but I'll tell you right now, I've learned a lot in the last 24 hours diving as deep as I possibly can into this. So let's get to it and talk about what we're actually doing. We're going to be looking at this spawn. Looks like a pretty standard spawn. Nice, easy, simple, no crazy resources in here for us to go to or beeline to. There's a few decisions that we could make, but the first one's going to be about whether we put down our city in place or whether we move it over towards fresh water, which is probably going to be a little bit smarter than what the computer says here because this is the only tile that we've actually got fresh water on. So we're going to go ahead and put that city down. Now that's an obvious choice about how this game would go. Had we moved our capital city down here, then it's going to look a lot different in 100 turns or 200 turns down the track than what it does now. But what if I told you there were incredibly subtle choices that will shape the way that this game plays out? And the biggest one is a trap that even myself, I've fallen into many times before in previous videos. Even just yesterday, I was falling into this trap. And it wasn't until I sat down and did this deep dive that I said, okay, I'm making a mistake and I need to share this with everybody. So what is that mistake? That mistake is the Granary. The Granary is actually, it's a warehouse building. It provides a bonus to any of the farms that you've got. So that sounds great if you've got farms. The only thing is, farms aren't actually good. You look at this as a position to expand on and you think, wow, okay, we've got 2 food and a happiness over there. That seems like a pretty good deal. I want to take that. It's more than the 1 food and 1 production. But the truth is, when it comes to your capital city, production is the king. And it's the king from the very first turn. And what that means is that we need to optimize our playstyle. And keep in mind, this is only if you want to optimize your playstyle. If you want to work towards beating the deity AI, then 100% I think this is the best way to play. But if you just want to chill, if you just want to make world wonders, that's not a problem at all. Feel free to play that way. This is more about that min-max mindset, which is something that I min-max everything I do. I'm telling you right now, I'm going up the stairs. I'm thinking about, okay, what am I going to take upstairs with me so that I don't have to go up a second time? I live and breathe that min-max style. But the point is that farms, unfortunately, are not the best opening. So in this video, we take a look at the 4 different openings that we've got. The first one being farms, which is the worst opening. The second opening being the opening on water, which is where you take fishing boats on a navigable river or in the open ocean. And from there, you look to expand out and around the map. That's the third best or the second worst. So there's 4 of them. That's number 3 on the list. Number 2 is where you take woodcutters. So if you've got a nice little forest ring like this where you can potentially look to expand out to them, that's the second best one. And then the final one, the number 1, the best one by far, in my opinion, is the mines. So these mines right here. So we've got iron, we've got another mine that we can put here, another one that we can put here. We've got another mine over here. And these are by far the best opening, in my opinion. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to break down, we're going to have a benchmark, which is going to be 30 turns into the game, and we're going to take a look at the difference where these early decisions and how they impacted us at that 30 turn mark. And then we're going to go, after we've done that, we'll go through and have a look at those 10 turns and the decisions that we can make through them, do a little bit of a playthrough as well. So let's get to it and take a look at our first save. Okay, we're here on our first save, and you can see we've got lots of farms. We've got a granary over here. It's probably giving us awesome value on all of these farms. The only trouble is these farms aren't that hot. Our population in the capital is currently 9. We're about to hit 10. Now, keep in mind that does include buildings, but the main thing that's of importance are our expansions. We've settled the natural wonder. We've forward settled not just one, but a second enemy as well. We've looked to take as much land away from them as we possibly can, and we're looking to now settle back in these positions that aren't as challenged. We're at turn number 30, and it's at this point where we talk about just a little bit of a brief overview on the way to play against the deity AI. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is taking a look at the tech tree. And when it comes to the tech tree, there's very important techs in my mind that are more important than others. So the first one is writing. I think writing is incredibly good because when it comes to science in Civ 7, it's not particularly easy to come by. You don't get +1 science for +1 citizen. It just sits there at 10 unless you manage to grab, an incense tile or a natural wonder that gives you science, or perhaps you build a library, which is exactly why it's so powerful. So that's a huge component of the early game, is beelining towards the library. Now, there are definitely openings where you wouldn't do that, but from what I've found right now, that definitely seems to be the best opening, because by leaving the library until later on, you fall too far behind in science and you're just not able to keep up with the deity or the deity AIs. So just talking a little bit about our path. So we would want to go to writing because writing is going to provide us that. We'd want to get the mastery for writing as well. And then we want to look to come to bronze working. And that's because of the extra production that it provides to the barracks. So it gives a +2 production, as well as the fact that we're able to upgrade our units. And it makes it easier to defend in the event that the AI attacks us. But from here, we've only got 3 expansions. And part of the reason why we've only got 3 is because our production in the capital is quite low. If we have a look at what our capital's currently got in it, we've got a total of 13 production. Now, one thing to note is that with that production, you're not able to build a whole lot of things. So that your buildings start to stack up. And you've got some really good stuff in here. As an example, you've got a +6 garden that you can put down in a wonderful spot. And 6 food is a lot. In fact, it's 3 farms worth of food. And because of that, you're less incentivized in this game, in Civ 7, to go for food early. And that's part of the reason why, in my opinion, farms are the worst tile that you can take early, because there are ways to mitigate food growth later on. So the first one is the garden. The second one is the bath, which you'll be familiar with if you've worried about personal hygiene. It is a 10% growth rate, but also plus for food. And then it also has an adjacency bonus on the river. So if we put it here, we'd get 4, and then we'd get 5, and then we'd get 6 probably. And we'd also give a bonus to the capital. So it would be a very nice thing. Whereas with production, there are other ways that you can get it, but they're typically going to be smaller amounts that you're going to be doing that. Further, and this is the real key point in this analysis, your production is linear through the game. Every time that you're adding more production, you're adding a set amount onto that, and you're building things that are staying relatively the same cost. Obviously, there's exceptions to that, like building settlers. But further to that, if we were to look at food, it scales. It's not exponentially, but it's not pretty. So here we're at 208 food, okay? And our next citizen is about to roll over. So when we end this turn, that citizen is now going to be worth 332 food. So that means that I need more than 50% more food now to power up that next citizen. So if I'm investing that food, and I think this really is where it comes down to the crux of the issue, what's the purpose of my food in the first place? That's to grow. And why do I want to grow? Well, I want to grow so that I can get big. Well, why do I want to get big? I want to get big so I can produce lots of things. Okay, well, there we go. Let's cut out the middleman. Let's not grow. And let's just produce lots of things. So instead of going after the farm tiles, we could go after the mine tiles, or we could go after the woodcutters. That's essentially the idea. So I want you to take a look at this. Keep in mind, this is turn 30. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 settlements at the moment. We've got another settler that's in queue. We've got one that's moving out towards this position. And the general goal is that we want to get to 6 to 7 settlements as quickly as possible. That's our goal. So that's what we're going to be looking at. Let's roll over onto the next save, which is going to be the fishing boat opening. Our second opening is the fishing boat opening, and it looks very similar to the farming opening. We've got 4 settlements in total. We've got our settler that's moving out over towards this expansion on the east, and we don't have any settler in queue at the moment, but we'll go ahead and we'll queue him up. He's got another 5 turns to go. Now, one of the key differences in this opening is that you'll notice, well, if you've got a keen eye, that we don't have a library. And there's a very specific reason for that. And that's because the fishing boat opening is a low production opening. You don't have a lot of production. However, there is a pantheon that mitigates this, and that's called God of the Sea, which gives +1 production on fishing boats. The only trouble is, this isn't like previous Civ games, where you can just take your pantheon and you've all of a sudden got your bonus. Unfortunately, you need to build an altar. And that means that you're putting a lot of production into a building that serves a purpose to give you production. And don't get me wrong, it's a lot of production. It's definitely worthwhile. But it also means that you're not able to afford luxuries like the library. And because of that, you start to fall behind. Now, don't get me wrong. You could 100% throw a library and try and squeeze a library in here somewhere. And that's 100% doable. But it's one of the consequences of opening with the fishing boat opening is that you have less production than the other openings. You've got more than the farm opening, but that is at a cost. And that cost being that you're going to have to put down this altar. So other than that, the key difference here is just the fact that you're able to take advantage of the water. You're able to leverage the growth, and the growth is significantly higher on a fishing boat opening. In fact, it's the highest growth opening that there is. The only consequence is it's a very low production opening. So one of the things that you can do is come down towards the bottom side of the tech tree, look to go into masonry to get the +1 production on mines and quarries, and try and pair that with this kind of opening. But you can see even at this point, because you've already invested so heavily into fishing boats, you've got the fishing key, you've got the Pantheon for it as well, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to just be putting down a mine right now, because I don't have a brickyard, I don't have a saw pit, I'm not going to be getting super duper good bonuses from this. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense at this stage to be doing that. And because of that, it remains a relatively low growth start, and subsequently it sits on the tier list. If you had to, it's not really a tier list, I'd just say it's probably the second worst or the third best out of the 4. Let's move on to our second one, and this is going to be our Woodcutter Start. Okay, we're here at turn 30 on the Woodcutter Start. Now this is the second best of them, and you'll already see a huge difference in it. We have not only our capital and our first 3 expansions, we've also put this one down, and we've got another 2 cities. It's absolutely crazy, isn't it? Because I think for most people, myself included, you look at that and you would think, okay, it's not going to be a huge difference. But it's actually massive. It's insane, the difference between it. And the reality is that the capital isn't actually that much smaller. We still need a decent amount of food to grow here. And further to that, the production that we've got, we're able to utilize in buildings such as the bath or the garden a little bit later on, and that's going to help us boost that food number back up. We're going to be able to get these towns that we've got out here that are feeding into us. But one of the things that I'm sure you've already looked at and said, well, hold on, this doesn't make any sense. You're unhappy in all of your cities. In fact, you're probably crazy unhappy, and you're exactly right. We are 100%. We're very, very crazy. We're very, very crazy. We're also very, very crazy, but we're also very unhappy. We've got some towns here that have got -15. It's not looking pretty. But the good news is it's not going to stay like that forever. There's a number of ways that you can improve throughout the game. Your settlement limit, at the moment, we're 7 out of 4, and that's because we have a base of 3, and we picked up a 4th one from irrigation, and we'll be looking to pick up organized military, which is going to take us to 5, and then entertainment, which will take us to 6. And that's our general game plan. I follow this game plan in every single game that I play, because I want to make sure that I am maximizing my settlements, but reducing the penalties that are associated with having those settlements. So now that we have discussed happiness and the fact that this actually is something that can be mitigated, how much is it really affecting us right now? Because it is affecting us right now. So here in Sparta, we've got +1 food, +1 production, +4, so a total of +4. And that actually brings us down to 2.7. So it's a significant reduction in the actual yields. But the truth is that we're going to be very quickly on the heel looking to try and pick up these extra settlement limits, and that's going to push us up into a reasonable territory. So in the short term, it hurts, but in the long term, it's definitely beneficial to be playing this style, to be playing this way, to be securing as many settlements as we can. The only trouble is, when you open with a woodcutter opening, like we've done here, you've got a problem. And that problem is that it's not easy to fit the library in. And this is where we get into a little bit more of the advanced component of the guide, which we'll talk more in depth about further on. But essentially, when you look at the tech tree, lumber camps are under animal husbandry. You get +1 production on camps and woodcutters. You also get the saw pit, which gives additional production to camps and woodcutters. So if you start off with a lumber camp opening, which is 1, 2, 3, which is 100% a lumber camp opening, you would want to be going down into that. And because you're going down into that, you're actually going away from writing. You'd have to come back up into pottery and then go into writing. And because of that, it means that you are going to end up delaying your library. Now, there's no reason why you can't just go back up into pottery and then go into writing. But there is a world where some people, I'm sure, will say, well, there's no point to get the library early. You should get it later on. You can always catch up with science. You know, you can put down you can turn your cities over and you'll catch up to the AI in science eventually. And they're right, 100%. The trouble is the mid-game. You're going to have so much production on your cities that you're not going to have enough science to actually get those buildings out quickly enough. That's the trouble that you've got. You've got all this crazy production, but during the mid-game, you're not researching things fast enough. But by the end of the Antiquity era, you're 100% able to do it. But that's from my experience in just playing these through. I've played all of these games through now. And that was the one thing that I noticed, is the weakness to this strategy, the weakness to opening woodcutters, is the fact that you don't have that very straight flow into the library, and it sets you behind on science. So at the moment, we're only 14. Let's check in with our final save and see how much science per turn it's doing. Okay, so here on the fourth and final save, you can see that we're at 25 science per turn. And this is because not only do we get the library that's put down, but we always follow it up by going into the codex that's provided at Mastery. Not only does that give you the 2 science, but it also gives +1 on science buildings. So that 2 science that you've got from the base yield of the library, that becomes 3. And then with the codex, it becomes 5. And then if you've got any adjacencies, so for us here, this was the best adjacency I could find, was just a +1, it goes up to 6, which is a huge amount. If you're talking the difference between 11 and 17 science in the early game, that's absolutely crazy, and that's reflected in our technology. As you can see, we're researching sailing. No, we've already been up the tech tree. We've already made our way to bronze working, and now we've doubled back, and now we're going to go sailing into currency. And that's just how far ahead that you can get with this. My estimate is that at this point in the game, on turn 30, I'm about 11 turns ahead in science than what I would be if I didn't do that. Now, my math is probably off, but that was my from looking at it on how long it would take for the other playthrough to catch up to where this playthrough currently is on science. 11 turns is what I had. Now, that's obviously going to change because you'll pick up more science through the ages. But anyway, that's roughly the difference. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about what this strat does differently. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've also got 1 settler that's here that has been hit by a little bit of flood damage, but is about to make its way over. And we've got the second settler, which is about to come out. So if it came down to it, you would say that the other one is definitely a more expansion-focused opening, right? We've put all of our production and put it into expanding quickly. We haven't gone into a library. We haven't gone into an altar like we would with a fishing opening. We don't have low production like we did with the farm opening. It was just pure production. Whereas here, we've flexed a little bit into science, but we've covered our bases by doing that. And it means that we've been able to deny these expansions from our opponents. It means that we've been able to take any further expansions that we want, and we can now continue coming out to expand. Further, because we've got our science focus here, what we're able to do is build a lot, or have a lot more options when it comes to building inside your town or inside your city. So we've got access to the barracks that we could put down right now, which is incredible because it's going to take that production and it's going to make it even higher. So it's a very high value building for us to have, and to be able to get that earlier is significantly important. So why is the mining opening so much better? And the answer is because of the way that it just simply funnels in from pottery into writing. So pottery provides a +1 production to clay pits, mines, and quarries, as well as +1 production on clay pits. So the mines don't get it, but the clay pits do get extra 1. And then you can just follow it up into writing. And this works really well with the standard opening. So if I was to say, Civ 7 has a standard opening, an opening that you can use in pretty much every game, it would look like the following. You would open with a scout. You'd follow that up with a second scout, or you could do a warrior. I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of leaning more towards a warrior now, just because I've found barb camps can be really troublesome early on. And just having that warrior to deflect the early scout makes it so much easier. So after the scout, after the warrior, at that point, you would then go into the Brickyard. So the Brickyard is going to provide you heaps of production. And keep in mind, we're going to do this in the subsequent playthrough that we'll do after this little bit right here. And then so from there, you'd go into a settler. Then you can do a second settler. But by that time, you will have unlocked the library. And you can quickly pop the library out. Takes a couple of turns because you've already got all of your production is set up. You're geared, ready to go. And then straight back into more settlers. That's it. The only pit stop you're doing is at the settlers. And because of that, it means that you're able to keep that science flowing quite high throughout the mid-game, and you're also able to guarantee your follow-up expansions. And that's why I think mining is the best opening. Now, keep in mind, not every single opening is going to be viable on every single spawn. There's going to be spawns where you've only got the option to put down woodcutters, or options, or spawns where you've only got the option to put down farms. And that's okay. But it's about understanding, being able to look at your spawn and go, okay, well, hold on. I know that mines are the best because they allow me to get into libraries faster. So I should look for those. And if I can't find them, that's okay. I can go into the woodcutters because woodcutters are still going to be a high production start. And if I can't find them, that's all right. I've got water nearby and I can put fishing boats on the water, and I can get the Pantheon that allows me to increase how much production they've got. And then worst case scenario, you've only got farms. Well, probably just re-roll that one. Now, speaking of re-rolls, let's take this one back to turn 1. Let's have a look at how it actually plays out. We're going to do up to 30 turns. We're going to try and emulate our success here, and we're going to explain our decision-making and go through and try and guide exactly where everything needs to fit in perfectly. Okay, so we're at turn 1. We're playing Machiavelli, and we're playing the Greeks. And the reason why we're doing this combo is because this is a combo that doesn't have any advantage whatsoever to anything other than influence, I guess is probably it. I guess we've also got the hoplite, but, you know, there's no bonuses like Ben Franklin's got to early production or early science buildings. It's purely just as standard as you can get. Now, with regard to our mementos, I think I've been saying that wrong my entire life. We've just taken expansionist as well as cultural, which are like the base ones, and I think that most people will agree that those are pretty kind of stock standard, that you have them in your games if you want to take them. So let's go through our playthrough. So we already know where we're going to settle. We're going to be settling in this position here, and that's just simply because it's got the fresh water. We know that it's got fresh water because it's next to the navigable river. So we'll go ahead and we'll settle, and we'll look towards our first production. So I'm going to start off with 1 scout, and we typically want to move our scout in the path of least resistance, and that is going to be down towards this angle. So we'll move down towards the south. Now, even though I know the map layout, right? I know that there's a natural wonder over here. I know there's a city-state over here. I know that we've got Pachacuti down here, and we've got Jose Rizal over here. I'm still going to play the game the same way that I would play it if I didn't know. All the decisions will be based on the information that we've got. Now, because we're going for a mining start here, that means that we're going to be moving into, let me open our tech, we're going to be moving into our pottery opening. So that's going to give us +1 production on our mines once we've got the brickyard. So we'll do that, and we'll go for our second round of production. So I'm going to open up with a hoplite as well. So we'll use our hoplite to scout early on, and we'll bring him back if we need to. So we're going to start by taking the first mine. We've got the iron, which is great, and we'll move over onto the culture, and of course we're always going to take the culture in this circumstance. The sooner we can get to chiefdom, the better. It's going to be very advantageous for us. We could look to move down towards this direction. This actually isn't a bad little spot, and over here we'll send our hoplite over in this direction. And now we're going to use a technique that I know it's a little bit, how do I say this politely? It's a little bit controversial in the Civ community, but I do think it's worthwhile. If you haven't got it mapped already, make sure you do. So under configure, it's the force next turn button. And the reason why that's important is because it allows you to roll over the turn without doing the things that it's asking you. So I've got production right now. I've got 6 production, and I don't want to spend it on a scout or a hoplite or a granary. I just want to keep that production and roll it over into the next turn. And by doing that, it allows me to essentially pre-build the next thing that's about to come out right now, or the next turn. So let's go ahead and complete this turn. So even though in this situation, so this is one of those things where it's like, 24 hours ago, right now, the guy that you're talking to would have taken this tile every single time. I never would have thought, okay, well, I want to try and min-max all of the mines that I'm getting, but now it's been brought to light, and it's definitely... Things are different now. So what we're going to do is we'll go into mysticism. That's always our first default opening. Our government, we're going to go into oligarchy because it's nice and simple. Look, typically, you know what? We are playing on deity, and I do want to go for all of the wonders. We're gonna go classical republic, and I do that just so that we can get the production speed. And you can't really do that without having them. So +1 production and science on the palace. We want to really make as much production as we can. With regard to our pantheon, we don't care that much about it. There's a lot of good pantheons that we could take. So for us, it's much of a muchness. Happiness or gold, we're going to take gold. Still asking us to do this one, and our final, we're still being told that we need to do our production. So we'll go ahead and we'll cancel that. Now that we've got pottery research, that means we can begin our production. It's the brickyard, and we haven't really thought about where we're going to be putting these things down. Where are we going to be putting our brickyard down? Well, for me, there's already a clear answer. This one's going to be a library right here because it's adjacent to the iron. So that's probably going to be the library and the blacksmith, and that will be adjacent to the city center as well. So that gives us a nice little bonus here. And then on this position right here, we've got adjacency for 2 mountains, which means this is a perfect monument spot, which means this position right here doesn't really do much for us. So I think this is definitely the best spot. On top of that, after we've got the brickyard on this tile, it then allows us to leapfrog to another mine tile. So that, to me, seems like a no-brainer. So we'll go ahead, put that down. We've got a bit of a bug at the moment. I think this has been introduced in the new patch, but you can see we're already at halfway through on our production for the brickyard. So we'll make sure that we go ahead and do that. And we've got a scout, but we'll come down to this. We can spend 3 turns of production in a Thanatai and gain a boost to the earliest available technology, or we can move on. Now, normally in this position, I would probably take that because we quite literally just finished our technology. So it makes a lot of sense to do it. But because we're doing a playthrough where it's like a more general playthrough, I'm just going to take the science. All right, well, we've met Jose Rizal. So now that we know Jose Rizal is down here, this means that we want to forward settle him. We want to get a settler down here ASAP. But the other thing that we know is that we've got a natural wonder right here, and we need to settle this as well. And I would say, look, would you forward settle Jose if you gave up this natural wonder? Probably not. I think under all circumstances, you're going to want to take the natural wonder first. It is by far the #1 priority. And then this will be our second priority here. So that's what we'll look to do. We made a bit of a mistake here. We've walked right next to Painted Rock, but that's okay. We'll be able to get out. And now we've also met Pachacuti. So let's see if we can spot his capital. Okay, so we've spotted the capital. So now we know, okay, Pachacuti's probably a bit more of a threat. So we want to get maybe 1, maybe 2 settlers out in this situation. We're going to go ahead and take this one. We can apply to the fields or to the cities. Now, because it's offering us double the food compared to the production, you better believe we're going to take the food, right? Because if we look here, we're producing, we've got 6 food and 8 production. We're focusing our production. So for us, it makes sense here to always take the food. So we'll go ahead, we'll do that. And we've now got another growth. So we're going to grow to our mine. So that's our 3rd mine that we've got now. We're about to hit our brickyard, and this is going to be our power spike. Get ready. There it is. 1, 2, 3, 4 hammers. Our production has now gone to 12. And that's why this start is so crazy good. So now in this period here, we've got a nice little downtime where we can look to get a couple of settlers out. It's going to take 2 turns for us to get settlers, and we've got our first offering. Here, there's a part of me that thinks, okay, maybe it's better to save my my influence for Pachacuti because he's closer, but I love culture. I really love culture, so I'm not going to say no to that. That is a deal I'm always going to take, especially this early on. You'd be crazy not to. So you can try and overthink it as much as you like, and but at the end of the day, you're always going to be able to say the culture is worth taking. Now, I'm just curious here. Yeah, okay, that's probably what I suspected was going to happen. We're not going to be able to get the goody hut there. I think Jose Rizal's probably going to get it. But we might come down over here and try and scout towards Pachacuti. So we've got an offer here, 3 happiness in both cities, or we can pay nothing for it and then get influence. Hey, we've already got 16 a turn, 18 a turn. It's already kind of crazy. There's a part of me that just wants to accept it, right? Because can we double check? You can't actually see how many diplomatic actions you've got. But look, normally I would say no, but the fact that we've got so much influence, I'm still saying no. I'm still saying no. Sorry. The Rizzler, unfortunately, loses out today. And this is all pretty tough land over here. You can see just mines and forest, but we did find, what have we got? 30 culture or 5 production to the nearest settlement. 5 production's really not a lot. 30 culture's decent. Even for 25 gold to pay for that, I think that's fine. And that should almost push us to complete mysticism here. In fact, it did. We'll take that. So now we can choose our pantheon and we can see what's available. So I would say the best pantheons for us in this circumstance is always going to be City Patron Goddess. This is by far the best pantheon that there is in the game, full stop. There's really no questions about it, but other candidates, maybe God of the Sun, it's not terrible. God of Wisdom's actually not that bad. Same with Goddess of Festivals, quite good, but we're just going to go ahead with City Patron Goddess. So let's do that. So we've managed to secure that on turn 10, which is decent. Now, keep in mind, we are playing on the online speed, and that's just because we're doing this video, and I want to get through this relatively quickly. I don't want to be here for 6 hours with you guys going through the Age of Antiquity. And now we're at this point where we've got 3 turns until writing is completed, and we've got 2 turns on our settler. So we're going to make another settler. And this is where the power of this production start comes in. You've got so much damn production. It's absolutely crazy. The level that you can get with it. What have we got out here? It looks like we've got a bit of a barb camp potentially. So we can come back up and loop around here, but this looks like the end of the continent over in this direction. So I think it's probably going to be more valuable coming down around like this. We'll come back up down again. And we can now pick up our 4th mine. So that's going to give us a huge amount of production here. And we've got an option for open borders. Now, we'd never got an offer, so I always wait 1 turn with our leaders just to see if they make an offer. But Pachacuti didn't make an offer to us. Now, he's actually met someone else. It's not Jose Rizal, it's somebody else. There's a chance that he's already offered them, and he won't have any influence because he needs influence to accept our agreement. So we're going to go ahead and offer it to him. And so he's accepted it to us, or accepted us. Now, I could also send this down to Jose Rizal. the local festival, and there's a chance that he accepts that, and then we get more happiness from our investment. But I really just want to kind of push the relationship up with him. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to offer that to him, and that will push the relationship up twice as fast than if we just had one. So we'll continue expanding and continue moving. We've actually located another. We can lose this unit or we can move on. I think very much we're going to move on. We're not in the business of losing units. Thank you, though. And we've got our next settler, which is now going to be coming down. So we're going to forward settle here, of course. We're going to look to emulate the exact same way that we played earlier. So we'll forward settle down on this position here. Next settler's going to come here. Now, at this point, you could look at this and say, okay, you've got one turn until writing's finished. Do you forcibly end the turn and wait for it? Or do you go for another settler? And the only reason why I'm doing another settler here is because this spot right here is going to be contested, right? Like that position right here, this tile is very good. We pick up all these resources. It's a perfect blocker city. This is amazing. What is going on right there? There's something wrong with my oasis. I don't know what it is. But all right, at this point, we probably want to go into, I think culture's fine here as well. And now we're going to move into writing 2. Now, one thing to double check before we go into writing 2 is how long it's going to take us, our library. So our library is going to take 4 turns. So let's go ahead and put our library down right now. So even though we get the +3/1 here, or the 3+1 over here, we want to put our library here because we know we're going to get that bonus no matter what. That's the adjacency bonus from the palace. So we'll go ahead and put our library in that position. We can even move it up to the top of the queue just so it's in there nice and snug. And then from there, we've got 2 turns on the settler, 4 turns on the library. We've got 6 turns on writing the mastery. So we'll look to take that, and we'll continue moving down. I think we want to probably do that, get a bit of a vision in here. He's got a nice looking cap, lots of food, but as we know, where are we going over here? As we know, food is not the best resource early on. So we've settled now. This is going to be aggressive, and I think it's within 8 or 9 tiles, somewhere in that region. So this is going to hurt him. But the good news is, so we've settled too close to him, but because we got these endeavors off before we settled, the risk of him rejecting the endeavors is very low. But after we settle, the risk of him rejecting the endeavor is much higher. So we always want to try and get those endeavors out before we forward settle somebody. We're going to take this tile right here. It's going to give us, geez, have a look how good that is. So it's vegetated, that's why. So it's getting the bonus from the redwood forest. That's a good looking tile. Now keep in mind, Incense is one of the worst resources in the Antiquity Age. If I was doing a resource tier list, it would be the 3rd worst resource. The worst resource is this one right here, Jade, absolutely terrible. Incense together with Silk is probably the worst resources though. So we'll go ahead, we'll slot that bad boy in. I think it gives us a total of, wow, 0. Thanks, Incense. I remember the first time I saw Incense, I was like, that tile's crazy. It gives me +1 science, and I get an extra 10% science, and I've got 10 science. It's like 2 science. That's like a 20% boost. And then I actually realized what it did, and I was disappointed. Okay, we can become suzerain of an independent power or disperse an independent power. I think we're more likely to disperse an independent... Actually, we do have a lot of influence. We could become a suzerain. I think we could do that. We've got this one over here. We could look to try and befriend it right now, but I kind of want to keep this in the back pocket just in case he tries to denounce me. Then we're going to be able to cancel out the denouncement, and then that doesn't happen. So now let's look at where we're going down the tech tree. The key here is that we go into mastery of mysticism, because that's going to give us +2 food in all settlements. And while food might not be powerful in the capital, it is very powerful in our settlements or in our towns, mainly because our towns scale with food very well. They get that growth bonus. All right, well, we've got a nice little bonus here for culture. We'll definitely happily take that one, and we'll take the +2 gold as well. So we're up to 22 culture now, so things are starting to kick quite nicely into gear. We can look to move this scout past, but I kind of want to move it back just to cover over here on Painted Rock, because I don't really know about these guys over here. We want to try and bring back our... is this a legion? No, it's a hoplite. We want to bring back our hoplite. We've got our great general. Gosh, I'll stop eventually calling these the names of games gone past. And our next expansion is going to be on this tile. So the game's saying that should be the straight route. That's all you need to take. And let's see if we can get another. Got down here a tent camp, so we'll look to take that. And our next settle. This is going to really upset him. So we're going to go from a relationship of 8 down to a relationship of 12. Yeah, so we've forward settled him again. I think this one also might be considered a forward settle on him in this position. And not only that, look, we've already forward settled at this point. We might as well go take his tiles. So let's do that. We've got that, and that's going to make the relationship even worse because now we've got borders touching. And look, borders are not like skin. We don't like them touching. All right, so let's keep moving down over towards this position. We'll start taking our natural wonder now. We've got another offer for 6 culture. That pushes us up to 24. Very happy to take that. And it looks like that tent camp is gone. I don't see it, but I do see Jose Rizal. Big, very cheeky down here. We're going to continue making our way down. We found another city-state, and we found another ruin over here, so we could look to try and snag that one. And we've got a little bit of a trouble right now. So we need to get our hoplite over here ASAP. Our library is under construction. So we can't really get a... We could look to try and screen with our army commander. Let's see. Let's see if we can make this... Oh, that's not good. That's not good. And he's on the tile that we want to get to. Hold on. They're ignoring us. If you stand still, they can't see you. Jose Rizal offering us up some more happiness. We're not going to take it, but we are definitely going to take that. Oh, that is a wonderful +3 food in towns. This is definitely one of the best ones, I think. If you're gonna put them up on a list, that is definitely the case. So now we're going to head down into animal husbandry. We've finished our mastery, which has provided us with a codex. It's also given us +1 science on science buildings. Now, for some reason, our math has been a little bit off here, and that's okay. It does happen, but we'll get it all sorted out. Even if it's only for a turn or two without the library, I think it's still absolutely fine. So now that we've gone into these, so we've gone into the mastery for mysticism, I think the most important thing is to move up towards entertainment. Colosseum is one of the best wonders that you can get in the Antiquity Age, and the sooner we get it, the better. So do we want to hold ground here? I'm scared that they're going to double slam us, because if they double slam us, we could be in trouble. And if we move to this tile, yeah, I think we just hold position on this spot right now. So we're going to end turn. Oh my gosh. It's true. If you just... I have no idea why they're not attacking me. That is wild, dude. It's like they don't see you. All right, so we're going to settle in this position here. So we've managed to get 3 settlements down at a pretty early time here. On top of that, we've also got our library. We're sitting on 15 science. We're going to go slot our codex. It's already slotted. So let's put it in the library. That way our yields look a little bit better. Lovely. And we can continue expanding. But at this stage, things are looking good. We'll go ahead and we'll take the marble just because it gives us the culture, which is very, very nice. Even though it's tempting to want to expand over towards our flat plains and try and grow, I think the early culture just makes so much sense. And here, our expansion is going to be based on securing this land. We're denying this tile right here from him. So if we take a look, yeah, we're fine here. We're fine. I don't mind doing this. So we'll go ahead. We'll take that tile. That means borders are now touching. So we're going to have a slight reduction in our relationship and +1 production on a palace. You know, we're going to take that. And we're going to head straight back into the settler making. So we'll throw in another... How many more settlers are we going to do? Maybe another 3? What are we at the moment? We're at 4. So I think 7's a decent amount just to kind of start off with. And then you can always add in, you know, another 5 a little bit later. Here we'll stick the Great General or the commander into the city. And it looks like we've come across another continent, and we want to take that ruin, thank you. We can claim the wine, or we can tear down the winery. I don't actually mind the 37 gold. I think that's quite good. Now, we do have a little bit, I say a little bit of coin that's stacking up here. And normally the way that I like to spend my coin is in emergency situations. So say that you've got a city that's under siege, or a town that's under siege, you could buy a hoplite in it. But the other way that I like to spend it is in these towns, because they can't build buildings themselves, so you need to purchase the building in those towns. Whereas, like, you know, we could purchase an altar in here, but it just doesn't seem like a reasonable endeavor, just simply because we can already build it. Okay, so now we've reached this point where we don't have any mines left to build on. So where do we go from here? So I think that we can probably start looking towards whatever the best yields are. So we could take this one here, and we're going to be building on this soon. So we're going to be able to reallocate this citizen. A monument is going to be going down here as soon as we unlock it. We'll be looking to do that. Let's go ahead and sleep, and we can probably... Let's move you out over here. Oh, we can't actually get it this turn. I don't really want to fight on the river, because that's... We're just doing it. We're just doing it. We'll just take it. He slams the Great General. That's wonderful. That is perfect. And we can just move to this position here. We're not going to move the hoplite on top. We could even heal this one up. Actually, no, we'll slam him as well. So we're pretty low right now, but we'll be okay. And now we'll take our final Natural Wonder tile. And here, once again, we could look to try and expand down towards this position. But I think it's probably going to be more valuable just us moving back up towards this side. We could go for food here. In fact, food right now in this town is going to be really important. So even though the Granary only offers +1, like if we think about the food, like we've got 6 food. So going to 7 food here is not terrible. And I can definitely see farms that we're going to be putting down. But I think overall, just getting in the Brickyard sooner rather than later is probably going to make even more sense than that. Okay, so we're going to continue moving out to resources. Next one up is going to be our gypsum. So we'll go ahead and we'll take that. And now we'll move down into masonry. There's an argument here that you could move into irrigation because it provides the settlement limit, and that's going to help you because you've got a 4 out of 3 at the moment. So that'll give you a little bit of leverage there. But my thinking is you probably want to get into masonry sooner, because not only does it provide you access to the monument, but it also gives you +1 production on your mines and quarries. And how many mines and quarries have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4 here. And that's just in that base. We've also got a lot of quarries. So it makes a lot of sense to get it sooner. Realistically, the amount that you're losing from having that, it's not particularly big. If we were to pick that up, it wouldn't be game changing. Okay, so we could look to move out towards this position on the east side. We've got a lot of influence that's stacked up, but the Rizzler is looking to give a little bit of Riz over here to the Ho-Ho-Calm people. So we're just going to bide our time with that. There's a part of me that really wants to settle out here because we know that there should be a settlement out here somewhere. But instead, we're going to head out over towards this side, and we're just going to wait, because remember, the moment that this turns over to his city-state, it will stop fighting with us. So that's what we're going to do. And speaking of fighting, looks like we've got the man himself, Augustus. All right, so let's check. I don't want to offer Augustus anything because I suspect he's very far away from us right now. I think, did we meet him down here? I don't know where we met him. We've got, it could be over here that he is. I don't think he's over here. I don't actually remember meeting him in the games that I played previously. Like, I met him, but I never actually saw where he lived. I didn't know where he lived. He's not like Tubman. You just know where they live. So, in this position, once again, we're going to try now to see if we can get... Oh, you think you're going to denounce us? You think you're going to denounce us? That ain't happening. It ain't happening, Chief. So now that we've cancelled the denouncement, we've still got influence in the back pocket. We can try. It's very likely that he's going to reject this, though. It's incredibly likely that he rejects this right now. We'll try. Oh, he accepted. Oh, he accepted. He double accepted. That's great. So that means that we're going to trickle in influence. And this is part of, like, a real key component early on is managing your relationships and making sure people don't go to war with you. And look, I know earlier on I did say that we've specifically picked like Greece as well as Machiavelli because they don't really have any bonuses towards city building, but they definitely do have bonuses towards relationship building. So look, I'll take that criticism. I'll take that complaint for sure. Let's continue moving on. And we're going to heal in this position just here. I don't think we need to actually get any units down here at the moment. How are we doing with regard to... Do we have any gold? I want to have a look and see. I don't think we've got any gold. There is gold down here. So we could... Instead of going into public life, let's go into Code of Laws. It's going to take us a little bit longer, but what we're going to do is we're going to get a trader, and then we're going to come down here, trade with Cahokia, get the gold, and then after we've got the gold, then we'll buy everything for our settlements. It might take a little bit longer this way to do it, but it's probably going to be the smartest way for us to do that. All right, our expansions continue. We've got another settler that's going to be coming out shortly. And then after that, we're going to be getting our monument down. And now we've found... He is down here. All right, we took... Well, they've taken quite a bit of damage down here. Let's take a look and see. Oh, okay. Next expansion. So we could look to go into the marble. I'm just going to keep it simple. We've got a threat at the front here. And even though I was just talking about buying stuff, I think like the most important thing here is just going to be securing territory. So let's go ahead. We'll buy the granary, and then we'll just drop in. I think on this tile probably makes the most sense, just because we are in a town here. We're going to take all of that, and we'll happily take the culture. And at this point, it's all smooth sailing. Now, we could go masonry for the +1 production on buildings, but that's only +1 production in the cap. It doesn't really mean a lot. Whereas, like, the irrigation tech means a lot in this situation. We're going to cancel this settler, and we're going to put our monument down because we know we've got a +4 monument. So we'll go ahead and do that. That's going to kick out the citizen. And where do we allocate that citizen? We don't really have anywhere good to put the citizen. We could... This tile right here is incredible. You know what we could do? We could... Our next growth is in 9 turns, and that's a long time. And I want that tile right now. So I'm going to hold that instead. And we're going to just hold that citizen. Just keep them here. We're not going to expand to any specific tile. And now that Painted Rock has been taken, let's go out and take a look over towards this east side. So we've still got our citizen, Jose Rizal. He's offering us happiness. We're just going to take the influence for the moment, and we'll happily take the gold. That did not go through. Sometimes they don't go through. It can be a little bit strange. And now our next expansion. Which tile is the best one here? I mean, none of these are going to get fresh water. And oh, we can't actually build here. So there is 100% a city state down here. So we're just going to go for as close as possible to the water. I think that probably makes the most sense. And once again, our capital wants to grow. We're not going to allow it for the moment. We've still got that citizen in our back pocket that we're going to spend whenever we... Oh, that was the wrong... You came to the wrong neighborhood, Mr. Scout. I think you might be the first lost unit of the game. I always do my best to try and keep the units alive, but it can be difficult. Now, one other thing to note is we put this town down and we want to expand, but we can't because we're expanding our capital. And I'm curious how you guys feel about this. So leave a comment down below if you feel strongly either way. Do you think it's okay to forcibly end turn so that you don't have to spend something? So like for me, it's about making sure I end that turn. So now I'm going to be able to grow to this tile, which is a 3 production tile. And I don't feel like I've exploited the game in any way. I don't think I've done anything wrong. It's just that it's not an obvious mechanic, if that makes sense. And I know that sometimes people can feel a little bit iffy about that. So I'm curious what you think. We've now got a Brickyard down here, which is a +4. I think it's just going to make more sense for us to take that sooner rather than later. We'll expand our territory down here. We've now got access to this one. And we've picked up the gypsum. We could look to try and take the jade. Even though jade's not really that important of a resource, we still want to have the jade, just mainly because it's going to give us that potential 20 resources that we want at the end. So our monument's been completed, and now we're going to go for our next settler. We're at turn 28 at the moment, and our scout almost went down, but not quite. Not quite. How are we doing over here? Jose Rizal is also going after this one. He's looking to riz up everybody right now. He's doing a wonderful job as well. And let's keep scouting out over to here because we know that there's an expansion out there, but we're pretending that we don't. And now, why is it saying that this is a better spot? And why can't we settle there? Maybe I want to settle there. Is there a city-state out here, potentially? I mean, there's an ice wall. So now that we've got irrigation, we're up to 5 out of 4 on our settlement limit, which is going to bring the unhappiness down slightly. So instead, with this one, you can see that we've got 4 production, 4 happiness, and we're only at 3.5. So we're losing about... You know what I'm trying to very quickly do the math in my head, but it's not going to work. I'd have to stop and think about it, and I just want to play. We're going to take that culture, and now we're going to move towards bronze working, because bronze working is our key upgrade here. This is really going to allow us to push if we want to push. It's going to allow us to defend if we need to defend, and it's going to allow us to move into a more reasonable amount of production. On top of that, it also is going to give us, if we take a look in here, sorry. It's also going to give us access to the bronze working mastery, which is, in my opinion, one of the best masteries in the game. Have a look at this. +2 production on military buildings, which, by the way, your barracks is a military building, so that goes from 2 to 4. But +3 combat strength for infantry units. That is crazy. So if you're playing in a multiplayer game online, essentially what you've done is you've just rushed science, your science building as quickly as you can, and now you're rushing towards your tier 2 unit, and you're rushing towards an upgrade for them as well underneath that. So it gets absolutely crazy just how powerful it is. But we'll continue on moving forward here, expanding or looking out towards that side. I think we'll settle a city or a town right out here on the edge, and that's going to push us up to 6. We'll take the dyes over the pearls. Yeah, we'll take the dyes over the pearls. And we'll go ahead and grab the gold. We've also got access to another codex. We could take the influence, but the codex is infinitely better. Not infinitely, but it's still pretty good. I think it's probably just better to have you in the capital. The happiness. And we roll over now to turn 30. So this is going to be the final turn, even though, to be honest, there's a part of me that would really love to just keep playing through. At the same time, I just want to make, you know, I don't want every video that I post to be 90 minutes long. And I know there are people that would watch the video. Wait, did I just accidentally roll? I'm sorry, I rolled over to 31. All right, we're going to the... No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, okay, we'll do a turn 31 stock take and see where we're at. Actually, I'll stop playing. Okay, so... We've got the 4 towns down over here. We've got these 2 down here. We've got the 7th one that's coming out towards this position. At the moment, it doesn't really look like the Rizzler is out here. We see he's somewhere in this region. But overall, this is a good spot. And on top of that, we've got our science that's being maximized by our library. We've got our monument that is absolutely pumping out culture. And now the big question becomes, what are we going to do with our gold? Because at this point, and I very intentionally made sure we didn't spend our gold this game, with the exception of like down here. And that is because gold is really one of those resources that you can just do anything with, right? So we're sitting at 54 gold a turn right now, but you could easily increase this up to 70, 80 gold per turn very quickly. Just by getting a couple of buildings in these outer towns. But where I think the gold is probably going to be the most important at this point is going to be in Sparta. Sparta right now is an incredible candidate for a city. It's got a lot of base production. If we take a look at it, you can see it's already sitting at 10. It's got the natural wonder here as well. It's got a lot of mines, plenty of resources, and plenty of tiles, a lot of space to grow. This is a perfect candidate. And I think spending gold on going into a city here makes a lot of sense. On top of that, I really value having science and I really value having culture. And there's a really wonderful spot that I can put down my library, and it's right here. But not only that, I want my library right now because, well, we need our library as soon as possible. On top of that, we've also got the monument, which gets an adjacency bonus towards that natural wonder. We could technically put it on this tile right here, but then we'd get rid of the vegetated forest, so probably not worth it. And then we can't put it on this tile, so we could go ahead and we can't, or we can purchase it right there. So now we've pumped up those numbers a little bit more. The moment that we've got that city, we're looking to take advantage of it. And now we can start working on a garden. And that's one of the ways that you can use your culture, or rather your gold, to really bring your game online a lot faster. Yeah, essentially that's it. So look, overall, because I don't know exactly what the title of this video is going to be, but I just want you to know, I still value the Granary. I still think it's an important building. I just don't think it's the important building that a lot of us come to Civ 7 and see and click immediately because it's the first thing that we've got available. There's definitely a little bit more depth to the game than just clicking the Granary first. And I hope that this video has achieved that. I hope that you've enjoyed watching this video. If you've got any constructive criticism, leave it down in the comments. If you've got any rude things to say as well, chuck them in the comments. I read those as well. If you've enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like. And of course, if you're looking forward to more Civ 7 content, then make sure you hit that subscribe button because there is always time for one more turn.